So we might have to reverse roles again tonight because it seems like you have much more of a detailed agenda than I do.
I do, but I've got a low-hanging fruit one for you, and that would be Alexa skill. So did you want to kind of explain what the Alexa skill is?
So our new one, is that what you're talking about?
Our new one. We have more than one?
Well, I mean, the show Alexa skill. Is that what you're referencing?
Yes, that one.
So we launched this today. Thanks to Kevin for putting it together.
And Bob.
I was just the guy who said, hey, can we do this?
And you made the first audio clip.
And Kevin is the guy who makes it happen, though. So apparently you can make custom, well, not apparently. Through our extensive research, we figured out that you can do Alexa flash briefing skills. Damn it, I said her name. So we put one together and we created a special, I guess you'd call it a secondary podcast, really, in the grand scheme of things. And it's the Bob and Kevin Show Flash Briefing. And so you can go to the Amazon Marketplace and you can download that Flash Briefing skill. And in the morning, you can say, hey, lady, what's new? And you'll get some tech headlines, some commentary, and a little bit of a teaser from our latest episode. Damn near every day of the week. We're not going to do it every day of the week, but we're going to try to update it as much as possible. So we're going to ping back and forth. Bob will take a turn. Kevin will take a turn. And we're just going to build out some more content that way. So it should be fun. Are you excited?
I'm excited. So kids are on spring break, by the way, so you might hear some random family noise in the background. Hashtag podcasting with the family nearby.
So your kids are on spring break this week?
Yes, they just started.
My kids just got finished with spring break. So Josh and Lillian were actually on spring break at the same time, which is rare, but we didn't do a damn thing. So are you staycationing it for spring break, or are you guys jetting off somewhere?
We are staycationing this year. I have one in Mexico at the moment. But
the oldest?
The eldest. He is in New York City like a week ago, Mexico the next week. What did I do wrong?
Definitely living his best life.
I know, right? So question for you, Bob.
Okay.
Have you ever seen the movie The Fountain?
No, when you referenced this the other day, I don't know if I've ever even heard of this movie.
It's got Michael Keaton, and he plays Ray Kroc for McDonald's, and he basically swoops in and takes over McDonald's from this drive-in, walk up to the window burger joint and turns it into what we know of today. But one of the interesting things in the movie, and this is kind of what Ray Kroc was known for, he said he had this realization. He said, you know what, McDonald's brothers, you guys aren't in the burger business. And of course they look at, Ray Kroc, this, idea of what he's talking about. Do you know what business McDonald's really is in, Bob?
Ooh. Nope, but I know this is a trap, so go ahead and tell me.
It is a trap, but this is Ray Kroc's trap. They are in the real estate business because they own so much real estate that really the burgers are more secondary than anything. So
are there parallels between Mr. Kroc and the McDonald's brothers and Mr. Zuckerberg and the Winklevoss twins?
Yes. Well, at least I'll go. I don't know about the Winklevoss twins. I'm aware who they are, but it's more about Facebook. Facebook, let me ask you.
Well, right. But the Winklevoss twins were the McDonald's brothers because allegedly they came up with the concept of Facebook with Mark.
Okay. Fair enough. So what business would you say Facebook is about?
Facebook is in the business of connecting people.
Wow, thank you for playing along at least into my trap. Wrong, Bob. They are not in the connecting people business. They are in the advertising.
But Kevin, Mark Zuckerberg, and the rest of Facebook has told us that they're in the business of connecting people.
Well, I think there's a line that I'll mess up, but, a politician will usually piss on your leg and tell you it's raining, but that doesn't make it true. So,
thank God it's just on my leg.
I know, right? It was a jellyfish. I swear. I was trying to help you. Yeah, sure.
Yes.
So I would say, Facebook is in the advertising business, and everything else, everything is just happenstance. The fact that there's a Facebook page, there's a profile, there's a timeline, or it was a timeline, there's settings, there's no settings, there's profile, there's likes. It's all to support advertising, period, end statement, not to connect.
Is it just advertising, or is it even deeper than that? Is it data to the highest bidder, which right now is advertising, but that could change.
Right. What's the end game? The only reason that you have a singularity of data concentrated in one point that turns into a black hole of data that you'll never, ever, ever be sure you'll ever get back out of Facebook. It's all to support advertising. This whole idea that we're here to connect people, we want to do this, bull crap.
Wow.
That's
good for you and keeping the swearing out of the first 10 minutes. Nice job.
Yeah, thank you.
So I feel like we're kind of getting into the flow of the show, and we haven't really decided on the rule set yet. Because am I going to say what are we doing today? Or if you say it, I don't know how to fill in the blank.
I think you just said it. Well, Bob, today I think we're going to cover a few things.
No. That cut. Nope. We have to do it the right way. Because it's hard to go over the music if I'm just saying, hey, what are we doing today?
All right, Bob. I want you to do it.
You are listening to the Bob and Kevin Show with Bob Beattybar
and Kevin Gishesky. Each week we cover relevant tech and social issues related to technology.
Our website is bobandkevin.show.
And our episodes can be found virtually on any podcast network.
Be sure to follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook.
Just search for Bob and Kevin Show.
Hey, Kevin, what are we doing today?
Well, hey, Bob, I'm glad you asked, because today we're going to talk about Mark Zuckerberg's op-ed in the Washington Post this week. A little bit of Article 13. Not sure if you've heard of that. It's now no longer Article 13. It's now Article 17. Apparently, you grow extra numbers once you get passed in the EU think tank or wherever they pass these sorts of things. And if we have some time here, we might get into ethics councils with Google and other companies trying to figure out what the hell ethics in AI is, because you and I clearly have taken N number of episodes, and I'm not sure we figured it out yet ourselves. And so without further ado, I'm Kevin, and the other guy with me is...
Oh, cool. I'm Bob. I don't know if I've ever gotten to answer that before. So that's great.
I'm learning. So, all right. Yeah. So I'm sure you'll do some fancy editing here, and then possibly even drop the disclaimer right here. And then,
but we haven't talked about work yet. So the disclaimer comes in when we talk about work. So.
Oh, okay. Well, you've said it twice now. So, okay. So
so we're starting with Zuckerberg and his op-ed.
Yes.
Is that true?
That is a true statement. Did you get a chance to read any of it?
I read the op-ed a little bit, and I read some reaction to the op-ed, and I was going to ask you to kind of paint some background for all of us, because why did Mark feel like he had to do this in the first place? Well, what prompted this?
Well, I've got the Bob and Kevin Show branded tinfoil hat on right now. I'm trying to paint this picture because nobody can see a podcast. So I imagine it's a really nice one too. It's designer, it's Gucci, and
custom tinfoil hat.
Yes, exactly. So Mr. Zuckerberg, he had a op-ed, and it was titled "The Internet Needs New Rules, and Let's Start in These 4 Areas." So just to kind of give backstory, I'm going to briefly name out the 4 things. The first one was harmful content, so rules around that. The second one is legislation around protecting election. The third one is effective privacy and data protection needs a global harmonized framework. And then finally, The fourth one is regulation should guarantee the principle of data portability. So high level.
But wait a minute. Shouldn't those be in their corporate mission and values in general, since he owns the corporation that kind of manages all this stuff already?
Well, yeah. So let's break down each one if you don't mind. So the first one,
not a problem.
First one was harmful content, and it's basically saying he wants help defining what harmful is. And I would posit to you, Bob, after doing enough of these podcasts, 30 some now, which isn't very much, but it's enough to start
33
wondering.
podcasts plus probably equal, if not more, video shows. So we're getting up there in numbers.
I would posit to you that it's damn near impossible, if not, it is impossible to define harmful content and to make everyone happy or a majority happy. I just don't think it's possible. Is his first rule or position even something that's solvable? Or is he, in my opinion, basically saying, you know what, we can't figure it out either, so let's push it to somebody else who can't solve it either, but we'll point the finger at lawmakers? What say you?
No, it's totally a cop-out, because they don't want to put a stake in the ground because it could impact advertising, stakeholders, everyone up and down the line. So they want to put it in the hands of lawmakers who will stumble around with it just like they did with pornography. And then basically he can throw his hands up and say, hey, this is what the lawmakers have decided. This is the way we're going to do it.
Bob, what's the definition of obscene?
What? Nobody knows.
I know it when I see it.
Yeah, is that what they kind of concluded with, is I know it when I see it?
Right, and I think we're in the same realm here. Well, that's harmful. I know it when I see it. Okay, go ahead and teach your AI algorithms and machine learning all this stuff. Side note, I tweeted, I don't know, today or something. Isn't it funny how we can figure out copyrights and things like that, though on Instagram, I can't get AI or machine learning to automatically ban these accounts that say we sell followers when their profile picture says we sell followers. You know,
right.
you would think they could figure out this stuff. They can't figure that out, but they can figure out a cat playing a piano through this AI and machine learning. You know, just what are we doing?
Can they? Have they got that nailed?
Well, you and I were showed some sort of presentation a few years back in Denmark. This, you know, the code, you know, looking at images and it's a hamburger or it's a whatever. You know, you telling me that something that has text that says we sell followers, you don't have some sort of basic OCR technology from the year 2000 that can't read this image and go, hey,
right.
guys.
OCR should be the first layer, because that used to be the way to get around text readable on the internet, is just put it in an image. So yeah, OCR should be first layer of defense.
So I think it comes down to want to. I mean, Instagram, they're kind of the good at turning the other or turning their cheek or eye away from the fact that people steal other people's images. Because let's face it, if you couldn't steal other people's images and post it easily to Instagram, what would Instagram be? Well, it would be a bunch of people's photos. But there's a ton of memes out there. I mean, I don't know what hashtags you follow, if any, but there's tons and tons and tons and tons of echoey rehashing memes. And you would think that Instagram would crack down on some of these things, but you know, I just don't think they want to.
Well, a couple things. Let's not forget, A, Instagram equals Facebook because Facebook owns them. And then B, do people who create memes, do they care about ownership of said memes? I guess it's true, though, because a couple of channels that I follow will watermark the memes that they make. So, God, such a crazy world.
Okay, so that's that back to Zuckerberg. That was his first.
I don't know if there was a question there or just me ranting.
That's fine. That's our show in a nutshell right there. So, going back to the first thing that he wanted to address, which is harmful content, I think it's a cop out. And then if we go to the second one, legislation is important for protecting elections. And I would say, well, guess what? You've already screwed that one up pretty good a few times, and it's just not America. You know, it's Brexit, it's smaller countries, it's the U.S. And he's appealing to lawmakers to give him rules to follow. But do we really want that? Mark Zuckerberg, do you want a government, and not only a government, a particular one, which is the U.S. government, to tell you what to do? And again, I think this is more copping out of, well, you know what? The problem in front of you is hard, Mark. Let's agree that this is a tough problem. But you can't just say, well, guys, we've tried, and I want somebody else to figure it out. Because again, we're just going, well, you know what? We do what the government tells us. Businesses, and then we hand wring ourselves of any responsibility. If we just say, well, talk to your government and talk to your congressman. What do you think?
What if this is, I reference this all the time, that we're kind of living these prequels to these Black Mirror episodes. What if this is his step 3,000 into getting the government to take over the entity that is Facebook, and Facebook becomes a government-controlled entity?
Well, let's go through that one. Thanks, Bob. Thanks for the hand grenade. First off, he's richer than rich, right?
Right.
And
he doesn't need it. He doesn't need Facebook anymore.
So at this point, a scorched earth strategy would not probably bother him, other than the fact that when you create something, you kind of have this personal attachment. So I honestly don't think that would be a thing. And then secondly, the government wouldn't be able to handle it. Have you been to a government website, like a federal government website, where the SSLs are usually out of date, expired, the drop downs?
All they would have to have is administrative domain, legal domain over the property that is. And then they could stick their sticky little fat, ugly fingers into that data as well. And it's like this, since we're wearing our custom tinfoil hats, this is the whole thing where it isn't a private entrepreneur and his board of directors that are owning this data anymore and their shareholders. It's the United States government.
But what's the play for the government? I mean,
well, the play for the government is that Facebook is bigger than the United States of America. So Mark Zuckerberg sends out this plea, please government, please help me control this giant monster that I've created. I need these 4 points of legislation. The government steps in and says, obviously, Mark, you can't handle this, and convinces their stakeholders that Mark has to be relinquished of power via like an Elon Musk. And the government steps in and says, this beast is too big to fail. We're going to have to take over here.
Boy, I hope you're wrong on all fronts. No offense.
No, I don't want to be right either, because that's the scary coming of end times. That is our Black Mirror episode where the government controls the most popular social network on the planet. And we're all piped into it. We're in the matrix at that point.
To try to get back to, okay, so his second point was legislation is important for protecting elections. I would say that's very vague and open-ended. So
they'll never figure that out. Yeah, they'll never figure that out.
We can't even figure out how to release a investigation document in a reasonable amount of time. Anyway, enough on that.
Ooh, Kev just went political. Dun, dun, dun.
Did I just do that? All right. Third, effective privacy and data protection needs a globally harmonized framework. He suggests GDPR is a good idea, yet has ignored the rules as recent as the password logging fiasco we just came out of. Mark, are you?
Yeah.
Hello.
Check out last week's episode where we fillet him on that one, because what did they do? They set their own 72-hour window because they sat on a leak.
Yeah, what kind of Twilight Zone is that? So to finish the thought there, he's calling for a common global framework, his words, not mine. But I give you, Mark, Exhibit A, which I call Brexit, as the reason that will never work. The world doesn't really do well with getting along, especially with global rules. And would we have to ask the UN to set these internet rules? Do we want like this one world order and, giving up control to the UN or whoever that is? And I think that's a scary proposition right there. What do you think?
Well, take my prior statement a step further. Instead of giving up to the U.S. government, Facebook gives its IP and the ability to be Facebook to the UN. That's even worse. That's a scarier proposition.
So I took a U.S. cyber law class and part of my master's program. And one of the takeaways is states and the internet aren't compatible because the internet crosses state lines. So it really rises to interstate commerce is what the internet really is governed by. And then when you cross an additional line on the map, you go international. And then when you do the international thing, it turns into Willy Wonka world, Alice in Wonderland, because you've got GDPR, you've got the way the U.S. does things, you've got authoritarian governments like China, who are like, you know what, F you world, we're going to do whatever the hell we want. And
well, that's basically the world's biggest intranet, though, right?
Yeah, the Great China Firewall, right? The Great Firewall. So yes, but they can get away with it because nobody's going to stand up to them. Nobody's going to say, So of course Google, will capitulate here and there. Apple does the same thing because they have a lot of people. It's a huge market. But when you start going international with rules and things like that, which we're going to cover here later.
I was going to say, this is just, we could have segued over 27 times to the next topic.
I know, right? It just becomes this matrix or Venn diagram of impossibility where you need 5-dimensional space to make everything work correctly. And, so we're creating this impossible world. So I digress for now. I'll stick a pin in that. And then if we go to his last rule that he was suggesting, regulation should guarantee the principle of data portability. So he uses the example of sign in with Facebook as being a way to be portable. This is, a way, and I can understand OAuth. Okay, kind of get that. But in a bit, I also view that oppositely because it's also a way to do a vendor lock-in. If the whole world's doing sign in with Facebook on every other website, you're portable, yet you're not, because now I got to go to Facebook to do my sign in.
Right. It's not data portability. It's data ubiquity, to bring back the phrase from last week. I mean, we bring this example back time and time again. On the Android platform right now, Facebook comes pre-installed on the device. Is that true? And you cannot get rid of it.
I cannot get rid of it.
Whether you're using the OAuth platform, and we already know that there's data being collected and sent to Facebook about use of those Android devices without the user's permission, or by some weird thing because Facebook is pre-installed, there's an agreement to the terms and conditions, blah, 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 blah. So yeah, every one of these 4 points, I don't like them at all. Like, he should have never come out with this, because this just digs a hole deeper for him than he's already in.
In my tweet rage over the weekend, because I think this came out over the weekend, I came up with some rules from Mark, and largely the internet shrugged and went meh to my tweets. But I'm going to go ahead and repeat some of them here. So, Mark Zuckerberg, because I know you listen to this podcast, here's some rules that I think you should be more focused on rather than necessarily the ones you've offered, maybe in concert with some of those. So how about you stop making deals with Android makers like Verizon, where they can no longer take their app off their phone, and it makes it impossible. So how about we stop that bullshit? Number 2, how about you stop mining data via third-party apps via your SDK? What do I mean by that? Oh, let's see, like MyFitnessPal or something like that has basically a back, I don't want to call it backdoor, but a back path to Facebook, because whenever I put in what I eat and what I weigh and all this stuff, strangely, Facebook finds out about it, and I'm not even a Facebook user. Strange. How about we stop doing that?
Seems like there's some low-hanging fruit to clean his own house, huh?
Oh, yeah. Insert glass house, stone parable, or whatever it is here. So, how about we prohibit companies from other social medias acquiring other social media companies when it hurts competition? Oh, does that sound familiar? I don't know.
Instagram? WhatsApp?
Yeah. How about when you delete your own post off of Facebook, that happened over the weekend, and you tell us it's not worth the effort to restore? How about we just delete everybody's profile and decide it's not worth the effort to restore everybody's profile. And then, we'll be, what's good for the goose is good for the gander. Does that sound good, Bob?
Yeah, but see, that's the scary thing. It already feels like state-run media at that point when the leader can do that and have no repercussions.
So I think we've both read the book 1984, right?
I think I watched the movie.
Okay, so
actually, I think I'd read it in high school too, but a lot of brain cells have gone by the wayside since then.
So it was written in the early 20th century, and that just...
Because 1984 seemed a long way away in the early 19th
Correct.
century.
And one of the recurring themes is when something happens and the government wants to change direction, what they do is they rewrite history. And so this very much seems like when Zuckerberg's not once, but at least twice lost all of his previous posts. Seems like we're rewriting history so we can sanitize any sort of future questioning or investigation. We're rewriting history. And I think
he makes it's definitely to make it more difficult to find where major path changes have occurred in that organization. Without a doubt. It's just way too coincidental.
Hey, I've got more rules, Bob. How about we don't store plain text passwords in your logs for 7 years, and then thumb your nose at GDPR and set your own clock? Just the
filed
thought.
under duh.
How about we don't let third parties access Facebook user data? Now, paging Cambridge Analytica scandal. Anyone?
Also addressing point number 2 of his I need help rules, or right?
Yeah.
Is that number 2 or number 3? It was one of the two of them.
I think it's the first two are basically like, you know what? You guys just tell me what to do and I'll do it. Except
so if
I probably won't.
If he fixed his own shit, he wouldn't need help from the government in at least 2 of those points so far.
Well, I mean, deciding what's harmful, what's not, that's like the impossible question. I mean, it's so subjective. We will never, it's the unanswerable question.
Right, but he was asking for a global data maintenance directive, and then he was asking for what was the first one?
The first rule that he offered was harm data or harmful content. The second one was election.
Oh, second one,
stuff.
yeah. So number 2, yeah. So if he got rid of third-party data like Cambridge Analytica and stuff like that, he'd almost already addressed that one on his own.
Yeah. So, Bob, have you used WhatsApp before?
Only when traveling abroad with you.
Exactly. Yeah. I knew the answer to the question. I'm like a lawyer. I'm like, I've used it with Bob. I know the answer. All right. So, Bob, do you know where you keep your encryption key for WhatsApp? Because it's end-to-end encryption. So
no, I think Facebook keeps that in escrow for me, right?
Oh, yeah. Huh. Why would they do that, Bob?
Because I can't be bothered with keeping my own encryption key.
And just in case they need to get in there.
Yes.
Just in case. So I've got a new rule. So how about we don't store end-to-end encryption keys in an escrow, because that kind of defeats the purpose, doesn't it? But I think we also had an entire show on the ethics of encryption. Did we not?
I believe it was episode 30, if people want to go back and look at that one or listen to that one. Not look at, listen. Yeah, and it's interesting, though, because the encryption escrow and the backdoors, I believe if he got rid of that, he would have another one of his bases covered, because the government could come get those escrows. So
I've got one more rule, and it's an easy one.
Wow, you came up with a lot more than Mark did.
Shocker. And it's don't pretend we're dumb. I mean, I would imagine that most people don't care about what he's saying or take what he's saying as, yeah, sure, that sounds good. There's enough of us, I think there's like totally calling BS on all of this.
But there's not. But there's not. We are dumb. As a user base, I think you could totally paint us with a dumb brush.
You're probably right.
I'm part of the informed masses, yet I behave as someone painted with a dumb brush because I just can't be bothered.
So, you've seen Star Trek, I'm assuming, right? Various
couple hundred episodes, sure.
Oh, only a couple hundred. Okay. So the kind of idea is humanity eventually evolves to this utopian / utilitarian society where hunger is no longer a thing. There's no real money within the human cultures. That's within the other ones. I really think that this was written with that sort of, guys, let's, we will find what right is and we will all band behind it. Kind of like a Star Trek, but that's what makes Star Trek, because really the whole show is about how humanity can't handle being human. And I think what Zuckerberg's positing here is that we're somehow evolving to this utilitarian utopia where we are all going to just be all on the same message and we all agree what harmful is and not harmful, and we're just all going to just love it. And I just don't think that's a possibility. So what are we doing?
But the entity that binds that all together, and this is the scariest part, is the government.
In what way? Which government? There's a lot of them.
Well, no, there has to become a star fleet, a multi-planetary, like in Star Trek, it's a multi-planetary government. In our case, it would be the one world government, which might be the UN in this case, if it's not the US, and it's, or it becomes the EU. I mean, who knows? I mean, everyone's trying to vie for that ultimate, to set those standards, to set the GDPR for everyone, to set the Article 13/17 for everyone, so that's what that predicates upon is a singular entity that governs all this stuff.
So despite what I said earlier about how internet regulation is more federal based because it's interstate commerce, you're starting to see more and more states say, no, that's some BS. Let's do something to protect our residents. And one of those hot button topics is net neutrality, right? So in California, I think is one of the states or Washington State, where they're saying, you know what? No, the FCC rolled back net neutrality rules from the Obama administration. We're going to fight against it. And so it turns into this just legal Gantt chart, or pick a diagram that would fit, because I don't know what fits anymore, of what applies to me when, because we're netizens in a way. We're not necessarily citizens on the internet. We're netizens. What rules apply to us? At what point does my government law apply to me? At what point does European laws apply to me? At what point does my state law apply to me? And who the hell is going to sort all this out, Bob?
When it comes to the internet, I think there's actually 13 states that have challenged the shoot down of net neutrality. But when it comes to something that is global, like the internet, the state's definitely not going to. If that's the first place where you're tried, it might help. But if whoever's prosecuting that case wants to appeal it to a national level, then you're subject to the national law.
So one of the phrases I always hate when somebody says to me, especially the designers, and I love my designers, this is, they know I feel this way.
The thoughts and opinions of Bob and Kevin
of the Bob and Kevin Show are exclusively the thoughts of
Bob and Kevin, and not the thoughts of their employers.
Past, present, and probably not future.
So, Kevin, you think like an engineer. And they're right, because I'm thinking, oh, well, that requires a refactor. And so what I think I'm hearing from Zuckerberg is, oh, well, we need to keep pushing this up to a higher level component because we need global rules. Well, when I hear global, I keep hearing a hierarchy. Keep pushing up till we get a hierarchy where somebody decides what's harmful, not harmful. And I don't think the logic, I'm going to agree with the designers, I don't think an engineer's mind solves this problem, where we just say, let's refactor it to that one governing body, this global framework that Zuckerberg wants. They will decide for us what right and wrong is. I'm pretty sure wars have been fought over less. No?
Yeah, and I don't necessarily think that he wants this. I think that this is a knee-jerk reaction to the pressure he's feeling from recent current events, and he's just trying to diffuse some heat. honestly, because
Bob?
unless he's willing to give it up, I don't think he wants this.
I've got a current event for you, Bob. Article 13.
Yes, sir.
Are you familiar with Article 13?
Yeah, actually, it's been around for quite a while because I remember you and I talking about kind of fearing this because it's got copyright stuff all entangled in it. So it's probably mid-year last year it's been kicking around since?
Yeah, so some of the watchdog groups have been saying, hey, this is coming, y'all need to pay attention, kind of like net neutrality and all that. And of course, nobody pays attention until like the day they vote, and then people get angry, and then people, lose interest again. Article 13 for the lay person is basically a copyright friendly or content producer friendly thing in the European Union. And it essentially says that if you've got, and there's a chart here, if you've got a platform that's been available for at least 3 years, you have 10 million euros in revenue, I guess. It says annual turnover. I don't even know what that means. Or more than 5 million unique monthly visitors, this would apply to you. And essentially what it means is if somebody uploads content to your site, you have to bounce it off of a copyright database and make sure that nobody's already claimed this content. And that is such a Pandora's box because I'm gonna trap you again, Bob. You ready?
Always ready for the traps.
What constitutes content that is probably copyrightable? Would an image fall under that, Bob?
Yes.
How about a song?
Most definitely.
How about a video?
Parts of it.
A book?
100%.
An article?
Yes.
A podcast?
Parts of it.
An API response?
Ooh. I don't have an answer for that one.
And this API response might have a JSON blob in it. And it might be one of the aforementioned pieces of content in
I'm gonna go with parts of it then.
So you can obviously see the slippery slope there. And then we're content creators. Would you not agree with that?
I would 100% agree that we are content creators.
So if we're going to have to, if this is for us, Article 13 is for content creators, we're going to have to register our content with these databases, right? So nobody infringes on us.
Is it up to us to register the content, or is it up to our hosting provider service that we utilize to distribute the content?
Well, maybe they offer a courtesy, but if there's a fee, because what government regulated thing doesn't have some sort of handling fee, who's going to pay that, Bob?
I'm not going to pay any fee to register our content with the government.
All right. Yeah, fair enough. Well, I mean, you could already do that with the U.S. government with your trademark or your copyright. You can actually register those formally. But we also have here automatic registration. If you can prove that you've used it or you created it, you're the original author. But let's not get in the weeds there. I got more. If my content is not listed and I'm not in this database, does that mean I can't claim it? Do I have to be in it? I mean, a lot of these things aren't in there. And then if I'm an authoritarian government like China, do they even give a shit about these laws?
I'm going to guarantee that China does not give a shit. The secondary aspect, like that already happens in the everyday world, where if somebody bites your content, it's up to the producer of that content to prove that they originally owned it. So what does this database do? Is it supposed to shortcut the process?
I believe it flips the script, because think about a patent. When you own a patent, you have to actively defend it. Where this would be if you uploaded content, we would automatically check the patent database to make sure a patent didn't already cover this. So we would prohibit you right away.
But let's think about like just the content of this episode. So how they would evaluate this episode is they would filter it and they would be identifying keywords, phrases. We've talked about Facebook several times. We've talked about the way that Facebook would potentially regulate itself. We've talked about Zuckerberg asking, well, we've mentioned the kid's name, first of all, and we've mentioned his op-ed where he put content about what he would be hoping for laws. I figured that this would get flagged all over the place because it would have reference to quote unquote content that Facebook and Zuckerberg have probably already registered in the database.
So that is a great observation, Bob. Here in America, because of our laws, we can actually do newsworthy things and do parodies or, things like that with fair use. But in the European Union, fair use is not universally applied in the member states of the EU. So in the UK, I think I was reading that, the rules are different there, where it's not automatically allowed if it's a parody. Where here in America, we can basically say, oh, it's a parody, and, and we could be challenged, but it's a thing. But in the EU, it's not so much.
Well, but I checked our listener map, and I think we have a couple listeners at least that fall in the EU. How would that work for us?
Actually, I'm going to have to ask any EU listeners to go ahead and disconnect because this show is no longer available in your country.
Dude, right. Article 13/17, we've been discontinued.
And by the way, we are using the honor system here. So if you're listening now, I won't tell. Okay. So Article 13, as you brought up, is now called Article 17. I don't know if we covered that, but it changes. But yeah, so it's a super slippery slope. It's designed to help content creators. But if you think of it from Facebook and the big companies' perspective, they now become on the defensive, right? Because now they become liable, I believe, for knowingly harboring content ID. But can you imagine how to fingerprint every piece of content that's created just today? How many pieces of content was created just today, Bob?
Well, what's the timetable on this master database? Because they could enact this as law, but how are they going to monitor that?
So this passed, and they have 2 years. Each of the member states of the EU have 2 years to, and this is what got me, they have 2 years to come up their own local laws that reflect this. So there's no guarantee there's any consistency. Apparently France is all about this, and Germany's like, I don't know if this is a good idea, guys.
Of course, France is all about this. God.
And so that takes me back to, nobody can agree because everyone wants to be in control of their own people. And I don't blame them. You're a freaking country. Look at what's happening in Brexit. You have a whole bunch of people who want out of the EU because they want to take control of their own destiny. And you have the other half who are like, it's not so bad. And here's what we have to lose. And we somehow think the internet is going to all agree on what's harmful content. No, not going to happen. And now, go ahead.
But why does the government get to step in here? Why is this not the responsibility of the platform where this stuff is being distributed? Why is it not Instagram's responsibility, Facebook's responsibility, YouTube's responsibility? Why did this become a government issue?
Well,
going back to Mark.
Through the power vested in me, I've made you the emperor of the New World Order, and you now get to decide what happens with the internet. And what would you decide? What would you have happen once you ascend the throne here?
Well, my thing would be Facebook if you can't do it, YouTube if you can't do it, Twitter if you can't do it. Sorry, you have to dissolve. And
you can't do what? Define it.
You can't do your service. If you can't adhere to these copyright laws that we're enacting, then you have to dissolve and let competition figure this out. Like Facebook, you don't exist anymore. Or we will fine you for every instance until you're out of business because you can't afford to pay the fines.
So am I hearing that you're in favor of the Article 13 or 17 or whatever it is?
What I'm in favor of is I'm in favor of each of the individual platforms to take responsibility for these types of copyright issues, not for the law to step in and say that it's them to govern.
Okay.
Because the laws are already there. The copyright laws are already in existence.
Except
steal somebody else's stuff. What?
Except they're asymmetric. So the German copyright law is not equal to the American copyright law. So when you have YouTube as a platform that hosts an American content video, it falls under one set of laws. And if somebody uploads through their German YouTube account a German piece of content, then, and that country says, no, you're not allowed to do that. Who's right, Bob?
All right. You might have me there because I don't know how you monitor and enforce that, because still German people could watch copyrighted content that was produced outside of the German common law area.
Right. So to take it back, so Zuckerberg's proposing a new world order, basically council, to say there will be a bunch of people wearing water buffalo hats in a smoky room deciding what is harmful, what's copyright and whatnot. And the EU is going, no. We're going to decide for all the EU citizens that this is the way it's going to be. And so we kind of get back into GDPR, that's a European Union thing. And how does that relate to America? Because that's not our laws. And so we're in this spaghetti mess of logic. And I'm just curious, if I can bestow upon you the right to do anything, how do we solve the solution, Bob?
Can't we just operate under the rules that don't be a dick? I mean, that seems to be, if everyone could universally abide by that, we wouldn't have any of this trouble.
I'm going to hazard my guess on how to solve this, and hazard is the only word I can come up with because it's a terrible idea.
Because I got nothing.
I would unfortunately have to go with if YouTube is violating German law and Germany says, you know what, we don't want this to happen in our country, then Germany needs to ban YouTube or find a way to ban that piece of content. Just like China. It's the China model. China's like, no, it's our way or the highway. And here are the rules if you want to play in our country. And unfortunately, I don't want to give China credit here, but it's kind of, it's kind of like, oh yeah, I can understand. And if the European Union wants to say, you know what, this is our copyright laws, great. The only wrinkly part for me is because we're all United Nations members, that means the EU could sue YouTube because YouTube's violating European law, yada, yada, yada. So what I would have to say is I don't know how to stop, or does YouTube just stop out of the goodness of their own heart and say, yeah, Germany asked us to not have this content and we just pull it? Then we get into the Facebook arguments of the government told you to pull this video and that's oppressing this group over here.
Then it's state media at that point.
So there we go. I think we've done another Bob and Show. Or Bob and Show. Oh my God.
Bob and Show.
Bob and Show. Bob and Kevin Show. Normal thing, which is not solve any problems whatsoever. But there's one more topic that you brought up.
I don't think Article 13 can be solved. I think that's just a hornet's nest. So let's move on. What was the last one?
Apparently Google has an ethics team for their AI and it's falling apart.
Yeah. So Google, I don't know. I mean, they're a giant entity. They're probably a nation unto themselves, but they've been getting into some sticky situations with the monetization of their technology, and they want to go into this AI cloud realm, and they got bought. Their services got bought by some military technology, and their employees jump in when I screw this up, Kevin. Employees kind of had an uprising and were like, nope, we're not doing that. So in response to that and a couple of other things, they appointed an outside board of directors for ethics, basically. And so they seated this board of directors with a handful, I believe it's only 12 members or something like that. But in that small board of directors for just related to ethics and AI, there's all kinds of infighting because there's entities that are on the board that don't want the board to be diverse as Google necessarily wants it to be, because it could work against the wishes of the people who didn't want to be involved with the government AI and all kinds of other, I mean, it goes into other levels too, but so they've basically got board of directors, members of the board of directors shitting on each other publicly on Facebook. And one of the things that I saw is one of them posted that they had more dirt on one of the other members than one of the conservative members already in question. So it's like, what a shit show. It's a board of directors for ethics, and the people on the board of directors don't even have any ethics.
Yeah, it's kind of what I was getting at. So we have a group of people who are fighting, and somehow they're going to come up with a way to come up with algorithms that are ethical. And based on the two previous conversations we just had are basically unsolvable problems, yet people are being convened to solve the unsolvable problems. Okay, just keep track here.
How do you tell an AI not to shit on another AI in a public forum when you can't even restrain from doing that yourself?
I saw a headline before we went on here that said if you put stickers on the road in a certain way, that the Uber autopilot will actually get in the wrong lane and hit a car in the wrong direction. So
the Uber autopilot or the Tesla autopilot?
I think it was Uber. Oh my gosh.
Ubers? I didn't know Ubers had autopilot.
Oh yeah, because they're the one that accidentally killed somebody last year or whatever it was. It was the Uber, because Uber's in that business too.
I forgot that they have a cross thing where they're doing driverless shit. God.
So my prediction is we were supposed to have flying cars by now, and now everyone's on this fad train of AI and machine learning, and I really do think it's a fad. And I just
You're
think
wrong. You're wrong.
Why am I wrong, Bob?
Because it's going to be the doom of us all. Machines will be making choices for us within our lifetimes.
Well, so if I were to be asked, I'm going to ask myself a question. Kevin, what do you think is the practical use of AI and machine learning? And I think it's just to replace menial tasks that humans don't want to do. So we need to lower the bar and go, you know what? Can we build a Roomba? Oh, wait, we've done that. Sweep the damn floor automatically for me. That's AI.
Yeah,
that's machine learning.
We keep redefining what menial tasks are, and they keep climbing the food chain. That's
driving a car is not menial.
There's a lot of people that think it's definitely part of the daily grind that's very menial. So they want the robot to take that over for them.
It's boring and it's a fact of life, but at the end of the day,
most people will define that as menial. I'm telling you, you're not stopping this train.
When you can prove to me that your decision logic module works exactly like a human, I'm all in. But that will never happen.
I can tell you whatever level of technology we're at right now, it makes better decisions than some humans.
I would disagree. I would say it makes more consistent decisions, not necessarily better.
I don't feel like I'm taking a big leap by saying it makes better decisions than a lot of humans right now. Because there's a lot of people who make really shitty choices.
Yeah, but see, this comes down to politics and what you see on social media every day. One person's good choice is another person's bad choice, and it's the same choice. It's all through the lens of your life experience, is it not, in your politics?
You have young drivers, correct?
I do.
And do you help your young driver pay his auto insurance?
Do not.
Oh, well, you should investigate how much that under 25-year-old male driver pays in auto insurance. And then come back. I do know
how much.
All right. And he pays far more than you do, correct?
We actually pay the same amount, but I get way more value because one's full coverage and one is not.
Right. So if you had identical coverage, his would be astronomical versus what you pay. Because why?
Absolutely would.
Because statistically, young male drivers, actually the female drivers I think are lockstep now. They used to not be, but make far worse choices when driving automobiles than people over 25. Hence, they pay less. And we have tons of actuaries that determine that.
The reason I'm giggling here is I'm like, yeah, you're right. A teenager might text and drive or something like that. But think about an autopilot system. It's not just text and driving. It's downloading the internet while it's driving and reading it. So there you go.
It is, but we have a small data set. But I bet you if you run those two data sets side by side, the computer drivers, way better than the sub 25 drivers.
I'm not sure if we can ever empirically test this and get a result.
We'll have enough data in a few years. We will definitely have enough data in a few years.
But Kevin's the get off my lawn guy with AI and machine learning, and I think we need to keep it the stupid menial task. Did you see the video where the robots that look like birds now? So we went from dogs to birds.
Right.
Where they are unloading the pallets and putting it on the conveyor belt. First of all, they look really freaky. But second, that's the kind of stuff I think is worthwhile. Just, move some shit. Move some heavy shit. That's a great task for a robot.
Yes. And you've also seen the same Black Mirror episode that I saw where you take one step very slightly away from that. And it's the robot guard dogs that are guarding the warehouse, because that's a menial task, guarding a warehouse that sees very little human interaction.
Yes. So long as we don't make it like RoboCop where you have 10 seconds to comply. Whoa, calm down here. I didn't hear him say drop the gun, or whatever. So, So I think I wouldn't mind robot mall cops where they can't shoot you. They can call the regular cops, but not like a fully armed attack dog where it's going to like rip your leg off. I just want like Wally to roll up and go, you're unauthorized to be here, or whatever, and then call it good. So I got to keep it menial here. I don't want Skynet.
The definition of menial is a moving target. And as we advance as a society, menial becomes bigger and bigger.
Do you know what this year is the 20th anniversary of cinema-wise?
The Matrix.
The Matrix, that's right. That blows my mind because that was such a revolutionary movie back then. And now it's 20 friggin' years old.
I've actually watched the first two within the last 3 weeks as part of my recovery, and they actually hold up really well.
I really didn't like anything after the first one, but I digress. But anyway.
I got pissed because I forgot the second one was to be continued. Or to be concluded, I think is what they said at the end. But
there you go. All right, Bob, we're talking about movies. We must be done here. So anything else we need to put a bow on?
I think the only thing we got to do is bring the lightning.